What if the grim darkness of the 41st millennium slammed their head first into the managed democracy of Helldivers 2? Let's be honest, it feels less like a what if and more like a when is it happening? The whole vibe, the endless war against alien monsters, the fanatical devotion to the cause, it just fits. And it isn't just the community that sees it. The developers at Arrowhead are massive 40k fans themselves, and have shown interest in bringing part of the madness of 40k to Helldivers in a big or small form. That to me sounds like a starter pistol for the speculation train. So today, we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to design it. We're breaking it down, piece by piece, what our dream version of an official, sanctioned, Ministry of Truth approved Warhammer 40k warbond would look like from here. From the armor and its perks to the weapons that will completely change how we fight. So lock and load Helldivers, it's time to report to the armory for the ultimate crossover concept. First up, let's talk armor. Any good warbond is defined by its armor set, and for a 40k crossover, it has to be legendary. We're not just talking about another standard issue set, we're imagining the CM27 Emperor's Champion heavy armor set. Visually, we could follow in the steps of a Space Marine and build a similar armor set that would reflect Helldivers 2 design, but it may look a bit too out of place to implement when you think about it. So instead, why don't we stay with something that's a bit more easily recognizable? Let's go with the flak armor, which is as basic as it gets when it comes between man and alien threats you face. While it's designed enough to deflect or negate most low-level attacks such as small arms, shrapnel and proximity blast, it won't do that well with the heavy attacks inflicted onto it, which is why this would be perfect as a lightweight armor set. It would have the standard green and beige colour with a helmet, goggles and face masks to keep the hidden appearance of the Helldivers. It will also have the key armor plating near the shoulder and chest and would have the little attachments applied to it, such as sidearm holster, ammo pouch, spare knife, etc. At the same time, I could also see the carapace armor being added to the game as a heavy set to use. This would be very heavily armored looking set that would have a similar helmet design to the Carskin set. In fact, they could quite easily port that armor set into the game as a 1-to-1 and it would fit perfectly in. But the passive now is what really matters. Our concept for the set comes with a new passive called Unyielding Faith. How it works? Simple. When you take damage that drops you below 50% health, you get a 3-second burst of 50% damage resistance. So picture this, you're around the corner and you walk straight into a face full of acid from a biosphere, or a rocket devastator decides you are this personal target. Normally, you would be dead. With Unyielding Faith, you get that one heroic moment to dive for cover, slam a stim, and get back into the fight. It's a perk that rewards playing aggressively while giving you a fighting chance against those sudden instant death moments. It's not just an armor, it's a declaration that you will not break, unless you're fighting against a demonic threat. Now the main event. A warbond is nothing without its guns, and a Warhammer warbond needs the weapons that feel like they can crack a planet or crack a few enemy skulls. In our version, we got 2 incredible primaries. Let's start with a common weapon that every foot infantry soldier has sworn their lives to. The lasgun is an impressive and reliable AR that, while it may be minuscule when dealing with demonic invasions on its own, it can quite literally push back the threats of man when you have dozens to hundreds of them all firing at once. In Helldivers 2, this would translate as a standard las variation, with perhaps a few moderations to make it more unique, such as giving it a rate of fire option, which will allow faster firing but also at the risk of overheating faster. Or, on the other hand, firing it slower would increase the accuracy and precision damage with a fire rate of 450. This should also affect its penetration levels as well, where it can follow in the variable style of damage if they like. Now, because there's so many modified versions of the las guns, the devs can take and modify it however they like, while still fitting the theme of the Helldivers 2 universe. Then on the second page, for those who like to live a little more dangerously, we have the Plas 11 Imperial plasma rifle. This will be a Helldivers take on the 40k plasma guns. Plasma guns in 40k are famous for being just as dangerous to the user as they are to the target, and this weapon would absolutely honour that legacy. The Imperial would be an energy weapon with the unstable property built into it. Forget heat sinks, this one would work by holding the trigger to charge up a single massive blast. Now, a simple quick tap would fire a small bolt, great for taking out the basic grunts, but holding it down for the full 2 seconds, you'll release a searing blast of plasma with a high armor penetration, capable of melting a Hulk's faceplate or face cooking a Bio Titan from the inside. But here's the catch. Hold that charge for just too long and the weapon will violently explode, downing you and taking anyone else nearby you. It would also come with the downside that each charge shot will take a good chunk of your base ammo. Let's say you start with 15 rounds in the magazine. Each fully charged shot would take 3 rounds away from you. This would make it both useful for a number of fights, but also very selective to where and when the fully charged shots can occur. It's the ultimate high risk, high reward weapon, demanding perfect timing and nerves of steel. It will be a true anti-armor primary, but one that could punish you for the slightest mistakes. Alright, those are the ideas for the primaries, but the Warhammer 40k universe has an absolutely massive arsenal to pull from. So I've got to ask you, what iconic weapon would you build for the warbond? A flamer that leaves pools of burning Promethean? A las cannon as a support weapon? Drop your best ideas in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure you subscribe for more Helldivers content and similar content like this. So let's fill out the rest of our dream loadout. For the secondary slot, let's go with a weapon that is as iconic as the name Warhammer is. The CS-22 Eviscerator Chainsword. This wouldn't just be a fancy bayonet. This will be a real, fully functional secondary weapon that takes up your pistol slot. Now, you hold onto it with one hand, meaning you can still carry an SSD or other objectives while wielding it. Instead of firing, pulling the trigger would rev the motor for a wide sweeping swing. It would deal continuous damage to anything it hits with incredible stagger. Imagine being swarmed by hunters. Instead of fumbling to shoot them all, you just rev up the chainsword and carve a path of destruction, turn them into cloud of green mist. It would be the ultimate close quarters crowd control tool, able to stun lock tougher enemies like brute commanders or even trip up a charging charger if you can land a solid hit on the leg. It wouldn't do a crazy amount of damage to heavy armor, but its ability to control a horde would be second to none. Finally, giving us a truly viable melee playstyle. It would also be cool if the devs experimented with this and allowed us to use the melee with a sidearm as well, for that, nostalgic feel. And for a grenade, we need something that can crack open the toughest targets. Let's design the KR-3 Purgation Charge. This is basically a melter bomb. It would have a smaller blast radius than a standard frag, but it will make up for it with the pure focus power. The charge would have the sticks to target property and extreme armor penetration, so medium to heavy. You could toss it onto an automaton factory and watch it melt a hole straight through the wall, or stick one to the back of a Bio Titan and see it burn through its thick carapace to expose a weak point. It would be similar to how thermite grenades are like, but will instead weaken heavy armor and make it easier to take them down while the effect is active. Perhaps 3 max is the best choice to have here, and it will be a nice support grenade to bring with you when your team doesn't have enough anti-armor weapons to generally fight back. And finally, a warbond isn't complete without some flair. Our ideal cape will be the Mantle of Dawn, a tattered, cream-coloured, all-red-coloured cape featuring a large, stylized black Imperial Aquila. It would look worn and battle-scarred, the perfect cosmetic for a true veteran. The player card could be in his name, showing a Helldiver planting a flag on a pile of smoke and termite corpse, which could swap out depending on the faction you're generally facing. Victory poses could include Emperor's Justice, where your Helldivers hold their weapons high, and No Mercy, where they rev the chainsaw menacingly, but also screaming and laughing. But the most gameplay defining cosmetic in our dream warbond would be the booster, Improvised Zeal. This booster would give every Helldiver on the team a recovery speed increase and a faster reload speed when near low health. This would encourage users to keep fighting no matter how bad the situation is, which is fitting for both Imperial Man Infantry and Super Earth Helldivers. It would go amazing when paired up with other boosters that also improve users' self-survival, and it's not anything too OP that will force the devs to nerf it later on. So there you have it. This isn't just a handful of items, is a design for a whole new way to play Helldivers 2, soaked in the grimdark, fanatical spirit of the 41st millennium. The themes are just too perfect to ignore, and the potential is off the charts. But what do you think? Is this warbond your save your medals for? And if a crossover like this ever did happen, what new enemy faction would you want to see drop in against? The Tyrannous Swarm? The Endless Orc War? The Traitor Legions of Chaos? Let me know your thoughts down below. For Super Earth, and for the Emperor.